Today we're going to go over one of the confusing options on the DJI Avata's menu. That's Emergency Propeller Stop. I'm going to show you what it actually does and demonstrate it for you, whether you're using the motion controller or the remote controller. The first question you probably have is, why is this even an option? I'm sure by now you've crashed your Avata and the propellers automatically turn off. Well, it does that most of the time, but some of the time it doesn't. And I've had several situations where I've gotten, as I call it, fetched up under something and the Avata just goes crazy. By the time you get to it, you really don't know what to do because it's going crazy. You really don't want to stick your hand in the propeller. I found sometimes that you can actually flip, if you're using the remote controller, you can flip it into manual mode and then back in the normal mode. That'll sometimes shut it off. But the best way to do it is to activate Emergency Propeller Stop. Now, a lot of you are using the motion controller, and I've recently started using the motion controller myself, and it is pretty neat, and I've gotten pretty good with it, and the head tracking is, sometimes I like it, sometimes I don't, but it is a real neat feature that DJI has given us with the DJI Avata. Now, with the motion controller, you can navigate the menu really well, but I usually like to use the 5D button here on the goggles. I can navigate the menu better, and I've also found in some things like setting up the motion controller itself, when you go into the advanced settings, you can't actually get to all the menus all the way at the bottom utilizing the motion controller itself. You have to use the button on the goggles. So if you're using the button on the goggles, what you want to do is you want to press down on the button once, and then I usually just go back towards myself, and that will speed the menu up, and then go up one and go to safety. And then you want to go to advanced safety settings. And then in that, you see there's the emergency propeller stop. That's going to give you the option, and it's going to give you a little warning here that you want to turn off, or agree to, I guess is what you want to do. And now it's on. Now the emergency propeller stop is going to stay active all the time. It doesn't turn off. I recently did a video where we activated emergency propeller stop and landing assistance. I'll put a little card up here in the thing if you're interested in learning about the landing assistance, the other thing that's on the menu. Now, we have the motion controller, and we'll go ahead and we'll take off with the motion controller. And when we have the pause button here, what we're going to do is we're going to press it 4 times fairly rapidly, and that's going to actuate the emergency propeller stop, which is going to cause the craft to actually stop the propellers, no matter whether it's 100 feet off the ground or it's 2 feet off the ground. In my demonstration videos here, obviously I kept the altitude very low because I didn't want to have to purchase an Avata for doing this video. So we'll go ahead and I'll show you the footage now of taking off and then activating the button 4 times and having the Avata bounce onto the ground. It's fairly straightforward. I like the way it works with the motion controller versus the remote controller, which we're going to go over next here. Hopefully that gave you some insight on the motion controller and how to set it up and use the emergency propeller stop with that. The next option will be using the remote controller in normal mode, and you do a stick command exactly like you would do the start propellers. You can either go down and out or down and in. Now, this doesn't take effect immediately, as you'll see here in the video that we're going to have. It actually takes, I believe DJI says 1.7 seconds. So the craft is going to actually start to descend and rotate before it goes down, which can be bad. Now, it's mainly designed that if you have a crash and the Avata is going crazy, that's really not going to matter. DJI in the manual does say that if you're flying along and you're afraid you're going to run into something, you could activate this to drop out of the sky. Well, it would actually be better just to go ahead and hit your pause button on the remote control and stop the drone. I think that would be safer than letting it fall out of the sky. Plus, it would be a lot less expensive because you don't have to get it repaired. So now that we've got this set up, we're going to go ahead and show you some video here of me taking off. And then we're going to go ahead and activate the emergency propeller stop, and you'll see that the Avata will actually spin around a little bit before it drops to the ground. Now the last option we have is for emergency propeller stop is when you're flying in manual mode. And actually, you really don't need to activate it when flying in manual mode. If you fly in manual mode, and you can set up your remote controller in two different ways. One, you can use the button here, which is your start stop button that you press twice to activate the motors or deactivate the motors. Or you can use your C2 switch here where you move it down and that activates the propellers, and the other two positions shut the propellers off. I use this function when I'm using this remote controller for regular FPVs with the O3 Air unit, but I don't like doing it with the Avata. And the reason being is then you lose your camera centering, where if I've manually moved the camera up or down and I want to recenter it to 0 rapidly, I can just bump the control up and back to normal, and then it'll put it back to 0 degrees. Where if you use this switch here, even in manual mode, when you're in normal mode or sport mode, you lose that functionality. So when you take off in manual mode, which I'm going to do here in this video, so it'll be in manual mode the whole time, you double press your motor start stop button, and then you fight the wind quite a bit here, and then you get it all together because it is a little bit hard trying to hover. It was fairly windy today that I filmed this video. And then just press the button twice and it'll land hard on the ground. And like I said, this is going to be whether you're 100 feet in the air or not. So if you're flying in manual mode, you probably will not need to ever turn on emergency propeller stop because you have the emergency propeller stop on your remote controller 3. So hopefully that's giving you the information that you need to make a decision whether you would want to use emergency propeller stop or not. I like having it in my back pocket because realistically, you're never going to be flying along and move your sticks down and out or down and in. So you might as well have it just in case you need it. And hopefully your flying goes a little bit better. If you've made it this far in the video, I'd really appreciate it if you could give me a thumbs up and maybe subscribe to the channel. I'd really appreciate it. Thanks again for watching, and we'll definitely catch you on the next one.